up your engine! Finally got my hands on a new Ford Bronco. Well, new to me at least. Now this thing sat for 12 years out in a farmer's field, but listen to the engine. It's got one solid engine. That baby is humming. It does have a 5-liter V8, and those engines are extremely dependable, especially back in 1989 when this thing was made. And where was it made? It was made in the USA in Michigan, which is coincidentally where they're going to be making the new Broncos. Now the lowest price new Bronco starts about $30,000, then you go up to about $35,000 for a 4-door, and if you want a fully loaded one, they start at $60,800. A lot of money. Consider that this Bronco was $400. If you want to spend the whole 60 grand extra, you could turn this into a dream machine, or you could just drive it around and fix it as need be. It's your choice with a truck like this. But he has big wheels, jacked up, 4-wheel drive. Look at the frame. Solid as a rock. This frame is not rusted. It is solid. Sure, the tailpipe needs a little bit of work, but hey, what do you want for $400? You check under. It's got the 4-wheel drive and rear differential. You're not going to get stuck in this thing. It's got the macho spare tire, and look, it still swings out. Back in the day, these babies were built. Now back in the day, these things had their own frame designed for them. Way back in 1965. Now, they were made in 65, but they were sold as a 66 model. And since then, they've sold well over 1 million Broncos. And sure, this one looks rough. We'll open the hood. There's stuff all over the place. The air filters have to be put back on correctly. Shroud for the fan is missing. But believe it or not, the air conditioner still blows cold. As you can see, we'll crank it over. Starts right up, good V8 engine. The AC, it's still blowing cold air. And sure, things like the wiper motor needs to be put back in, and the cover put back together, and the rear view mirror glued back on. But when you consider this thing sat all those years out in the field, the interior is not in that bad shape. It's even got what everybody wants. The big old roll bar. You can hear the power steering whining a little, but listen to that engine. Smooth, no clacking. Now the speedometer on this thing only says 45,000 miles. And to tell you the truth, by the noise the engine is making and the way that the transmission shifts, I'm actually assuming that's the real mileage on this thing. And if it is, what a steal for 400 bucks. It is one solid 5-liter V8 engine. Yeah, they're not racing engines in these things. You can soup them up if you want. You want to use it as a knock-around vehicle, leave it alone. Put some money into it. Hey, you didn't put much money into it yet. You can do it. The frame's solid. There's no rock. You find a vehicle like this lying around in somebody's field or in their driveway, buy it. These are real popular amongst the military, as you can see. It's got a really old Fort Campbell sticker. Airborners go off-road, so they want their vehicles to go off-road. With this kind of clearance, you can go off-road. And that big old V8, yeah, it's not a racing engine, but it's got a lot of torque for getting through tight spaces off-road. This is actually a perfect example of why they sold over 1 million of them. They're well made. They're solid. Yeah, they're gas hogs, but hey, what do you think you're going to get with something this big? Now, this thing is rated for towing 6,000 pounds, but with the size of the wheelbase, from my experience, you're best to leave it at about 4,000 pounds towing. It's not as long as the F-150, which is better made for towing, but it'll still tow 4,000 pounds. For an old vehicle like this, hey, that's pretty decent. Because the engine might only have 185 horsepower, but it's got 270 pound-feet of torque. So it's got a lot of torque for pulling. These things are geared great for off-road stuff. That's what they were originally made for. The Bronco was Ford's original sports utility vehicle. All the Broncos that they built, 66, they were 4-wheel drive. They're made for going on-road and off-road. And as I said earlier, check the bottom. Man, this thing, so listen to the metal. No rot at all. This thing is in immaculate shape. You don't even see anything dripping on the ground. It's not even leaking. I really believe that this particular example does only have 45,000 miles on it. So this particular one was a really good barn find, or I should say field find, because it was out in the field. It wasn't inside a barn. Let's take it for a spin. Got the nice step. Solid as can be. We'll climb in, start her up. Starts right up. And like I said, the old power steering. It's a groaner, but hey, these old Fords, they can groan for years and still drive. Still strong. You can hear that transmission. It shifts smooth. It's not slipping. I really believe this thing has 45,000 miles on it. Still handles decent for an old beast. And look, the brakes can really lock it up. And sure, as you can tell, the anti-lock brakes don't work anymore. You can hear those brakes lock up. But a lot of guys with one of these, they don't want anti-lock brakes to do off-road stuff. A lot of guys will just disconnect them anyways. Well, this one's already disconnected itself. And it's even got an aftermarket Kenwood stereo that works. High power cassette. Now let's say you're already on the waiting list for the new Bronco. It's rather long. It'll take a while to get one. Plus you're going to shell out at least $60,400. Maybe look for one of these for $400. Put a little bit of money into it. $1,000 here, $1,000 there. Then you'll have tons of money for buying gasoline with. And you'll still be way under the $60,400 price tag. I mean, check it out. The chrome is still shiny as can be. Back in 1989, Ford knew how to chrome plate stuff. Look at it. It's still shining. And that's 31 years later. And sure, the tires need air. Well, they need new tires. They dry rot sitting in the field that long. But they still go down the road, fix it up, you're going to put some nice tires on it too. But all that stuff's still readily available. Parts for these things are a cinch to find. The 351 Windsor is the more prized engine, but really, you can swap them out if you want. That's the advantage of these old Fords. You can put all kinds of stuff in them if you want. You get a basic solid truck like this for $400. Let me tell you, you're looking for one, jump on it, get it. The frame alone is worth that kind of money in the shape that this thing is in. Now the new Broncos, they're going to be made in the same factory that these old Broncos were made at in Michigan. So I'm assuming they're going to have good quality to them, but like everything else, Scotty likes to wait for some time to pass. Well, this is an 89, and a lot of time has passed, and it's still one solid vehicle. And in this case, it's $60,000 cheaper than the new one. And I like that a lot. And here's some bonus questions and answers. Joseph Branson, thoughts on a 1997 Tahoe? Everybody who knows me knows I don't like GM products. That's a 97. I had a customer just buy a 99. Great vehicle. They had 150,000 miles on it. It was four-wheel drive. Everything worked on it. He picked it up for $5,000. What a deal. He loves it. He's going to fix it all up, repaint it. Back in the day, those things were solid made. Not like the junk they're making today. It could be an excellent vehicle. There's absolutely nothing wrong with getting those old ones. Do if you live in the Rust Belt. Bring a big hammer, hit the frame, and make sure it's not rotted, because if the frame's rotted, don't even think about buying it. But here in Texas, they don't rot. So the one this guy had, I hit it, solid metal, when they rust on it at all. Jessica and Singdonji says, Scotty, should I buy a Bmw M Car or AMG for retirement? Well, you shouldn't buy any for your retirement, because if you do, you might have to go out of retirement and get another job to pay for the repairs on those things. Realize that, you know. I mean, if you absolutely had to, get an M car, because the M cars are real sports cars. They are set up to racing and zooming around, and they are fun to drive, but they're also very expensive to repair. But if you kind of look at it, you'll notice the M car resale value is much higher than the Mercedes. The Mercedes resale value is garbage, because everybody knows they cost a fortune and they break all the time. So if you had to, get the BMW. But really, if you're going into retirement, you buy either of those cars, they may end up forcing you after a few years of repairs to go back into the world of work. Edsel59 says, 1983 Mercedes-Benz 300 turbo diesel. Do you think it's worth buying that car? It's $4,500 and says it has 250,000 miles. Or should I stick with my 99 Solera that has about 250,000 miles? Stick with who brung you to the dance, like they say in Texas. If the Solera's running good, great. Why would you want to gamble? 38-year-old Mercedes-Benz with 250,000 miles. Now, they were great cars back in the day, but things wear out, parts aren't cheap, and it's that old, all the rubber stuff's going to be rotting away too. The Toyota's a lot newer, a lot more modern cars, parts are a lot cheaper. Stick with the Toyota. And anyways, the Mercedes way overpriced. $4,500, something that's that old with that kind of mods, they're lucky if they get a couple grand for that. Nobody wants to buy those old things. They're all old and worn out. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.